Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of CTLN Opinion Plus, where we have conversations about issues and concerns of the Latino community. Today, we are joined by Debra Greenwood, President and CEO of the Center for Family Justice. Thank you so much for joining us, Deborah. Thank you for taking your time to be with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity and for having me this morning. Appreciate it.
So I've heard so much great news and things about you, and I want you to let us know the great work that you do. And we want to start off with a little bit of the background and the mission statement of the Center for Family Justice and the work it does, or the work in the state of Connecticut you do with the different towns that you work in.
Be happy to. Well, we're an agency that has been an icon in the city of Bridgeport in the following regions that we serve in Lower Fairfield County for 126 years, starting as a YWCA and then in 1997 becoming the Center for Women and Families, really pivoting to target and focus, I think is a better word, on working and supporting victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, and children that have been affected by both sexual and domestic violence under the age of 18 years old. And in 2007, we started to look at what would be a better way to give more resources and programs and services to those in our service area in the greater Bridgeport region. And we looked at over almost 2 years what best practices might be. And that was a family justice center, which under one roof provides additional support, resources, and services, as well as inclusion of about 20 other nonprofits in the Bridgeport city that provide things that might include substance abuse and mental health and working with veterans and so many other very important critical pieces that we would hear from our clients. So when we cut the ribbon in 2016, we became under one roof a family justice center, and the first in Connecticut, joining now over 150 family justice centers in the United States, as well as 16 other countries. So we're very proud of that work.
Right. And I know that you've been in the field for over 35 years, and you started with a YMCA. Tell us a little bit about that and what motivated you to start this work and the passion that you have for this type of work.
Thank you. And you use the exact word that makes me so proud to be with so many very strong, educated, expert, and caring and warm individuals here at the Center for Family Justice. Starting off as a working mom, three young children at that time, and actually 3 daughters that are now all moms themselves. Way back, actually a little more now than 35 years in the YMCA, and I've always worked in the region, and I also worked for the YMCA of the USA, leading a lot of work with individuals that were disabled. So became, with my educational expertise, a faculty advisor for other YMCAs in the country, especially on the East Coast, on how to introduce that. So a big passion was not only the disabled population, but working with families and children. And I would hear many times, being an executive director, when you're visiting your programs, about the work that would affect victims of abuse. And we had... as I was doing a lot of this work in 2005, we became grandparents of for the very first time, and we're very excited about that. But 3 short months after the baby was diagnosed with less than a year to live, having a very, very rare disease. So we now talking about physical disabilities. Thank God, to this day, he is now 16 and a half years old. So I left my career in the Y, and I wanted to be close, but it was important that the advocacy work that we were doing was continued. And my home has always been the greater Bridgeport area. So giving back to communities where you actually live and raise your families was important. And that passion wanted us to be bigger and better. So when I got here, wanted to look at how do we make it better for victims of abuse. So
that was your big motivation. Very great story. I want to jump into the leading programs and services the Center of Family Justice offers. Can you give us a little bit of a background about what you guys offer?
I would be happy to. So we
Mhm.
have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, our hotlines for sexual violence victims and domestic violence victims. But critically important, and one of the key reasons why I'm so grateful to be part of your show today, was
Mhm.
looking and understanding the people that we serve. And in addition to our hotlines being in Spanish as well, we have language line for those that speak
Bilingual services.
many languages. But our biggest population, truly, when you look at 4,500 people that we serve, additional support groups that are being done not just in English but also in Spanish, and now we'll be adding a support group in Portuguese, and looking
Wow.
at the work that we do on those hotlines, where someone doesn't have to just call the hotline, they can actually come to our office here at 753 Fairfield Avenue. We expanded into our suburban towns in Fairfield and Monroe, having satellite offices for those that live in other towns, so that quickly they can come in. They might have a short window to speak to our advocates, which are our counselors, and having a bilingual staff, as
Yeah.
we utilized, was
So you
important.
do, that's really, really important to know that you do have, your office does offer bilingual services. That's something that a lot of the, Connecticut local, communities, organizations are working to do that because, as you know, Connecticut has a big, huge, over 600,000, I think, non Hispanics living in some of the communities. So that's really great to offer. Now, I want to move on to what were some of the recent challenges that your office faced during the pandemic, and how did you guys, what did you guys do to kind of address that, or what strategies did you guys do to kind of help move along your communities with the whole pandemic?
As everyone has gone through so much, and we still are, we realized so many individuals were sheltering at home with the abusive partner. And we talk about intimate partner violence, it's more than just a husband and wife or a boyfriend and girlfriend. It could be two men, two women. It could be a mother and her child. It could be a father and their child. So depending on what the abuse looks like, we realized people were sheltering at home. Schools were online. The kids weren't going to school, so they didn't have that safety net where they can speak to a teacher or a guidance counselor or someone. So March 2020, we all experienced what we did at the shutdown. We never stopped with our hotlines. We never stopped counseling those that we had been counseling. We just had to pivot and figure out how to do it like we are today, speaking remotely. So our chief operating officer, who has a very strong background in technology, had us pivot in less than 72 hours to go completely remote. All of our advocates and counselors had their caseloads. They reached back out, and some of the clients were not able to feel comfortable talking to anyone because the perpetrator might be living or close by to listen. So they had to figure out how to keep themselves safe. By the time we got to April 2020, we realized that our numbers were jumping well over 25 to 30% in the greater Bridgeport area. And that also includes our surrounding towns of Easton, Fairfield, Monroe, Stratford, and Trumbull. But being the only family justice center in this part of the state, we also realize our legal support, the attorneys that we have here that provide everything free and confidential, we're going to help support the victim through the journey of victim to survivorship.
To the court systems, yeah.
Courts were closed. And so you're talking about trying to keep your children safe. And in many cases, in some of those instances, the children were being taken away from, we'll say, the mother, and they needed to get representation. So we opened quite early in 2020 by being safe, using all of the resources that we could to keep our staff safe. We used two different teams that would come in. We reopened our crisis office here in Bridgeport, and we made sure we kept everything moving as closely as we could, setting up everything that we are currently doing so that people would not feel that they couldn't call or
Right.
come to the door. So we found the hotels were overabundance and they weren't giving free rooms. Our safe house, we couldn't move people. So we did
Wow.
start to see over a 50+% increase in people that were able to escape, but we had to pay for putting them in a hotel. Simultaneously, we looked
Mhm.
at our domestic violence safe house. That was good 22 years ago. And I'm proud to say that we worked through the pandemic very, very hard with some very generous donors. We're still not done, but we're still moving. We have a new safe house will be opening in
Okay.
the fall. So
Where would
well,
that be?
that is, it's going to be, I can only say it's going to be in Bridgeport. I can't give the location because it
Okay.
is confidential, but we worked through all of the systems that needed to be with approvals with the city of Bridgeport. And now in fall 2022, we will be cutting the ribbon on the Empower House, which is
Nice.
going to have all the support a victim needs when they have to leave, come with their children, and look at making sure, which we have accomplished through our Latinx department, through a lot of support financially through the state, and some grants that we've worked very hard in private foundations that are supporting our expansion of our Latinx department, which we're currently seeing
That's
1,400 individuals and children.
wow. So you see the need for it. I'm so happy and thrilled to hear that you guys are doing the best you can to serve the Latinx communities, which is a lot of the times are the one that can connect because of the language barrier. I want to move on to, I know that you have a great, one of your largest programs, the prevention program. I want you to tell me a little bit about that and, and how do you, where it is. Uh, yeah, it's one of the largest programs in the center. I want to know a little bit about that.
So through also through the pandemic, as bad as it's been for every single individual on the planet, here at the center, it gave us time to really focus in on what else needs to be done. And we know when we talked about children and coming back to school, and we have 32 public schools here in the city of Bridgeport. Again, through a lot of extra work and support, we were able to attain funding to work with the Bridgeport Public Schools, having
Mm,
bilingual staff that will now be able to help talk about what does a healthy relationship look like.
right.
Prevention, as we know, if we can get in front of children, and that was an important piece when we cut the ribbon on the Family Justice Center, work with kids who have already experienced the trauma. They've gone through the abuse, whether it's living in a domestic violence house or they've been sexually assaulted. We
Abuse, yeah.
interview these kids here at the center, and it's called the Multi-Interdisciplinary Team. We work with the youth officer of whatever town or city has happened, and we have a special department here that includes bilingual staff. Obviously, when we go through these highly trained forensic interviewers, that we are making not only the parent, that's the non-offending parent of the child, feel comfortable, but also the child, so that they can
Right.
honestly share. And then we move them into past crisis. How do we get them healthy again? And how can we teach kids to know that it's okay to talk to their teacher, and how can they talk to a guidance counselor, their principal? Maybe it's a recreational person. How do they talk to someone of their place of worship? Who do they trust? And
Right, right.
so without getting into a response, we were able to get some funds from the American Rescue Plan through the city of Bridgeport to expand our staff. We have a Camp Hope America Bridgeport program that we've had for 5 years. We're measuring our success on helping kids who've already gone through the trauma and how to teach them not to become the abuser, or how to
Right.
move forward on the trauma they've gone through. We have new clinical staff here working with those kids under the age of 18. Some of these kids are now
Right.
older, and we've hired them as counselors in our prevention program and mentoring program. And now we'll be in the Bridgeport schools being able to offer support and education and prevention. So important to get in front of it.
That's so good to hear because I also know that it offers anywhere between kindergarten and all the way to college, correct?
Exactly. We have college campus advocates
That's
at
such amazing work. I want
every.
to end with our last question, and I want to ask you if there's any information, additional resources, or additional resource that you would like to share with our audience. I know you mentioned that you have an entire project for Latinx communities, maybe some of the websites, that people can go to, or any significant event coming up that our community should know about.
So we have we do a lot of events here, but this April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It is our 10-year anniversary of Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. We spotlight and highlight sexual assault victims, and we'll be doing that in person, knocking on wood right now. The last two have been virtual. So that's coming up on April 23rd. And there'll be information on our website here at www.centerforfamilyjustice.org. And on the heels of that, at the Westfield Trumbull Mall on April 30th, and these are this is a free event, we will be having our Festival of Hope, and that is open to families. At the mall, it'll be outdoors. It's a touch a truck. Our police departments, fire departments, lots of information on the center will be there. It's from 11 to 4 o'clock, and that's on a Saturday.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for joining us. That's it. That's all the time that we have for now. Thank you for taking your time and all the great work you continue doing throughout the state of Connecticut.
Thank you very much for this. And if you know anyone that needs our support, we're on the hotlines 24/7. Everything is free and confidential.
Great resource. Thank you. Well, join us next time for another episode. For more information about our discussion today, check out our web story on ctlatinonews.com. Follow us on Twitter at ctlatinonews and Instagram at ct_Latino News. I'm Maricel Baez with CTLN Opinion Plus. See you next time.